Working animals. Often they are conceptualized as a phenomenon of the pre-industrial age. Historians regularly assume that working animals became obsolete in the process of industrialization and the modernization of agriculture. But a closer look at the development of the urban transport systems and the mechanization of agricultural production in the 19th and 20th centuries illustrates that working animals played a crucial role up to the middle of the 20th century. They were, in other words, agents of modernization and not, as often perceived, phenomenon of a pre-industrial era. This video essay first gives an overview of the relevance of working animals and illustrates their variety. It then shows three specific forms of human-animal interactions at work. The film clips used in this presentation are taken from the online portal of the European Rural History Film Association. Animals were seldom categorized and counted as working animals in the official statistics, but nonetheless, they were important, and their numerical relevance can be reconstructed. The number of working cows, for example, can be calculated from scientific investigations which were undertaken into the working capacities of cows in the 1930s and 40s. The cultivation of living resources depends on the weather, the topography, and the soil structure. It took more than a half a century to turn the strong but clumsy and far too heavy steam power machines of the 19th century into light, versatile, motor-driven machines, which could compete with animal power. In Switzerland, for example, it was only after World War II when the number of tractors outnumbered the animal-driven machines. Dogs were not only used for protecting goods and herding cattle and sheep, they also played a crucial role when it came to transporting goods to the markets. In the 19th and 20th centuries, dogs became particularly relevant for delivering milk from farms to the creameries. In many cities, they were indispensable for the milkmen who delivered milk to the consumers' homes. Animals are multifunctional creatures. Cows, for example, are not only producing meat and milk. In many European regions, they were used in great numbers as draft animals on small and medium-sized farms. In order to balance their milk and draft performance, they seldom were harnessed for more than a few hours per day, and they were spared from draft work for some time before and after giving birth to a calf. Breeding bulls were difficult to keep since they often became dangerous for those who had to handle them. But work was considered as easing their character. There is clear evidence that working bulls were kept longer for breeding purposes than those who lived idle on farms. Donkeys were often used as pack animals. They were known to be frugal, persistent, and often as stubborn as their masters. Horses were not only the strongest and fastest, but also the most prestigious among the working animals. Laborers responsible for the horses on bigger farms were better paid than ordinary farm laborers, and their reputation among the rural community was often higher than that of small farmers, who were depending on cows as draft animals. Up to the late 19th century, most of the urban transport systems were depending on horsepower. Cities, therefore, often had far higher horse density than rural areas. Since the cities could not produce the feed for the horses they needed, they simultaneously shaped their rural surroundings. There, not only the fodder for the horses was produced, but also the horses themselves. Farms located on the outskirts of the cities took on the task of educating young horses to work and accustoming them to urban noise levels. Animals, like men, are not simply born to work. They have to learn it before they can perform it. The teaching techniques varied across cultures and times, as much as the pulling harnesses. Foals, for example, were usually free to roam beside their working mothers in their first year. Then they were tied to a pulling adult in order to get adjusted to the working rhythm. Only if horses were 3 or 4 years old, they were actually expected to work along older companions. Both men and animals get tired when they are working. Unlike motor-driven machines, they are not able to work continually without resting. As living resources, they further have to eat and drink regularly. When men and animals were working together, they also rested, ate, and drank together. Children, like men and women, were an integral part of the peasant economy. While the burden of work was too heavy for many of the children, the film's sources indicate that working with animals was an empowering experience for many of them. An important aspect that becomes clear from the film clips is the close interaction of men, women, and children with their working companions. Although men decided when the animals had to work, the work itself was always done in cooperation between human beings and animals. As Jocelyne Pochet, the French sociologist, has argued, work not only produces products, it also produces ties. Work, therefore, is profoundly ambivalent. It can be a means of alienation, but it can also be an opportunity for emancipation.